Now, most galleries have a point of view artistically, but ACA Gallery began with a point of view socially and civically, and they've maintained that tradition over these years. They do feel a sense of responsibility to the arts community, to the city of New York, and to humanity. So that the shows that they have been giving and the artists that they've been representing over these years have a very important message, socially, civically, artistically. It's the strongest work possible, and it does represent a very particular American point of view. The contribution of ACA to art history is just, the depth is beyond compare of most galleries here in the city of New York. They continue that tradition by exhibiting work of contemporary artists who also take a very strong look at the art world and at their own world, at the civic world. In terms of art history, of course, when feminist art was being born in the 70s and having a very tough time gaining respect, gaining notice, gaining exhibitions, ACA was taking on artists who then went on, of course, to significant importance. One of them we're looking at here is a piece by Grace Hartigan done in 1978, and Grace Hartigan has an enormous amount of spirit in her soul and with her brush. You can see in the brushwork the strength of the brush, the strength of the images. She broke new ground. She was working with the abstract expressionists and then with the postmodernists, and had a very difficult time getting the respect that she went on, of course, to get, and the respect she ultimately deserved, because women at that time, particularly feminist artists, self-proclaimed feminist artists, were not getting the recognition that their male peers were. They were not getting the recognition by the other male artists and by the critics of the day. Well, people like Grace Hartigan stood up and told them what they could do with their opinion, and went on to paint according to their own soul and their own visions. And ACA Gallery had the courage to show Grace Hartigan, and continues to show Grace Hartigan. And when you take a real hard look at these pieces and the incredible brushwork, the sense of color, the courage of using paint in a way that just lets paint speak, then you also can see the courage of ACA galleries in showing work at the time that it was just fresh and new, and of course it remains relevant.
This is a painting. This small work is done by Ralph Blakelock, who is considered by many one of the early painters from the 19th century, who kind of was in his own little category to himself. According to Norman Getzke, who is the foremost scholar on Blakelock, this is one of two portraits that are known to exist by him. The painting depicts his father. We sent this painting to Norman about a year ago, and it had been in my collection for 25 years. And Norman informed me that he'd been looking for it for 50 years, that he had knew for years of its existence, but had never had an opportunity to see it. So he was exceptionally happy to learn of its existence. Blakelocks are basically divided into 4 categories by Mr. Getzke, who does this. He works out of the University in Nebraska, and those 4 categories are, if it's a Roman numeral 1, they're absolutely positive that the work is by the artist. If it's category 2, they feel it's most probably by the artist, but they can't prove that it's by the artist. And they have a category 3 and a category 4. Category 4 is a pretty sketchy attribution. But this had formerly been in the collection of the Museum of the City of New York, and it's just a fascinating little thing.
This is a work by Faith Ringgold from her jazz series. Faith was born in 1930 in Harlem and currently lives in New Jersey. She's known for her story quilts, where the work of art is a centerpiece and the story is around it. Her most famous piece is Tar Beach, which most people know. The original is in the Guggenheim, and it was made into a children's story in 1990. We've been representing Faith Ringgold since 1995, when her autobiography came out, We Flew Over the Bridge. Funny enough, we were written into her autobiography before we even met, because we were the only gallery on 57th Street which showed work by African American artists on a regular basis since the gallery was founded in 1932. And Faith always wanted to be with us, not even knowing us, and we're happy that we're together. We organized a traveling exhibition for the past 13 years, which has traveled to over 35 venues around the country. The most exciting news about Faith Ringgold is the Faith Ringgold's Children's Museum of Art and Storytelling, which we are currently building in Harlem. It'll be a children's museum as well as a 175,000 complex with a performance center and affordable housing, a completely green building.
Next to me is a very important piece by Judy Chicago. It's a played part of the dinner party, which has been immortalized now, of course, at the Sackler Center at the Brooklyn Museum. Judy Chicago probably was the most significant voice in pushing American feminist art into the public realm. ACA Gallery represents this work. They've had the courage to represent this work. Without ACA, I'm not sure that the social messages of artists would be as vibrant within art history as it's become. And on this very special anniversary of ACA, their 75th year, I think they get the congratulations, certainly of me and all of my colleagues in the museum world.
We have a work of Charles White, who is an African-American artist, who we first showed, I believe it was in 1946. This painting was in that very first show. It's called Mata della Rosa, and of course it depicts a African-American woman who seems exceptionally sad. And you can't help but ask yourself, why is she so very sad? And the answer is, you know, her children were good enough to go off to war and bleed for their country. But when it came time to come back, they weren't good enough to be able to get a job. So it was a very sad situation, and I think things have improved a great deal. And maybe with a little luck, we'll even have our first African-American president in a little while. I hope so.
Despite the political pressure applied during the 1950s, ACA stayed true to its roots and continued to showcase the finest American artists in art with a message. To this day, ACA provides a venue for voices of dissonance and has stayed socially and philanthropically active by organizing benefits and raising money for numerous humanitarian, political, and environmental causes. ACA was and still is the People's Gallery,